Alaskan Airlines is an airline that dominates the Pacific Northwest region, mainly based out in the Cascades area, so right around Portland, Seattle, and even going into Alaska. It's one of those airlines that is good within its region, and one of the things it flies to is in the DFW area, both at DFW and at Love Field. However, earlier this week, Alaskan Airlines confirmed it was leaving Dallas Love Field on May 14th. Now, with this happening, this could greatly shake up the gate allocations at Love Field. Now, what's going on, everyone? My name's Cool Titanium 68, and in today's video, we're going to discuss Alaskan Airlines leaving Dallas Love Field. Now, to start with, we're going to go all the way back to 2014. Why 2014, you might say? Well, outside of the Wright Amendment zone being lifted, there was another big thing that went on in the U.S. aviation industry, and that is the merger with American Airlines and U.S. Airways. Now, before this merger, American was one of the main people that flew out of the airport. They had started this back in the 90s because they had, at the time, they had better, how do I want to say this? They had better defined what types of planes could be used for long haul flights. And American kind of wanted to get into that, with Continental already doing some long haul flights to Cleveland, and was actually the first company to do so. American got into it and wanted to try and compete with Southwest in the within the right zone. They've had this since the 90s. American had the two gates previously since about 2006, when they signed the compromise to lift the Wright Amendment at Love Field. Though they had the two gates, and then at that time in 2006, two more gates were leased to Continental, which would become a part of United. And then again, the other 16 gates were leased to Southwest. Now, again, while American and U.S. Airways are finalizing their merger, the Department of Justice mandated that American had to sell their gate leases at Love Field. Now, a betting war went on, and everyone thought that either Southwest or Delta would get that because they both flew into that airfield. American was also subleasing their gates to Delta at the time, and again, that sublease was about to expire that year, so Delta wanted these gates for themselves. Now, what they did is United gave Delta 6 months to use their gates until they found a solution, but then United pulled out and gave their stuff to Southwest. And Southwest was like, shit out of luck. Can't really do anything about it. But, however, the Department of Justice decided to give American's former gates to Virgin America. Back on that later. Now, again, for years, Delta would fight the city of Dallas for terms of getting their own gates at Love Field. As I said before, for 6 months after American had moved out, Continental would lease their gates for 6 months, up until about 2015, up until about a couple months later, when after they had merged with United decided to pull out and give their gate rights to Southwest. And again, Southwest was like, well, shit out of luck, can't really do anything about it. So they took him to court. And this was a problem, because as I said before United gave their stuff to Southwest, Delta had a sublease with these two gates from United. And I think for it was for 90 days that Southwest would allow them to use their gates until they could find a deal, but then they couldn't. So temporarily, the city of Dallas forced Southwest to give either one or two of their gates to Delta. And this wouldn't be until 2022 where Alaskan Airlines would lease one of their gates to Delta, as the airline had been decreasing their service to and from Dallas Love Field since the pandemic. And right now, that sublease is through until 2028. So currently, they still have another 3 years on that lease. Now, coming back to Virgin America, as I said before, Virgin America had gotten those gates in 2014 from American Airlines, since they had to give up their gate rights at Love Field. The thing is that how do you think Alaska got those gates? Well, back in 2018, Alaskan Airlines merged with Virgin America. Basically, Virgin America just became a part of Alaskan Airlines, and they've been flying there since. And the thing is with Alaskan confirming that their last flight out of Love Field will take place on May 14th of 2025, so that's in 3 months from when this video comes out. Those two gates are now up for grabs. Alaska Airlines had been significantly decreasing its service through the 2020s as it went from almost 20 daily flights out of Love Field pre-pandemic to maybe 2 daily flights out of Love Field as of like a couple years ago. With Alaska flying out of DFW Airport to both Seattle, Tacoma, and Portland, and again the airline having a codeshare partner with American, it makes more sense for Alaska to really just say, yeah, we're not going to fly with in the Love Field. It's better to just fly into American, into DFW, because they have a codeshare partner with American, and especially since 1 in every 4 flights for American Airlines flying to DFW. Now again, why is this whole thing going to be such a big deal? Number one, Alaska still has one of those gates subleased till 2028. At this moment, it's still unclear who's going to get those gates at Love Field. Could it go to Southwest so that it, like, to basically help them with their continued growth? Like, because as of right now, I'm not even sure if Southwest flies into DFW Airport still. I know they were planning on doing that last year, since now they do not have to worry about the whole, like, the last section of the Wright Amendment, but I don't think Southwest is expanding into DFW yet, just because of how bad their 2024 fiscal year was. So they're just going to be like, let's put it on a back burner. We're still going to talk with DFW about it, but I would not be surprised if if they have a much better 25 and 26 and then decide, you know what, we're now going to start flying in there. Or they could just give the gates to Southwest, and they have with them hopefully upholding the Delta sublease, and Southwest now has an over 99% market share because they'll have all 20 gates to themselves. But the other thing that could happen is, could Delta themselves have their own gates leased directly by the city of Dallas? Remember, Love Field is not owned by another private company or another board like DFW Airport does, where they have their own board. Love Field is directly owned by the city of Dallas and operated by them too. Will Delta finally have their own gates that they sublease from the city of Dallas, or are they just going to stick with just flying with the one gate? Because if I remember right, the only flights that Love Field really flies is to and from Atlanta. If I remember right, I believe that is the only thing that they have there. Yes, so they only fly to and from Atlanta from Love Field. And they have more stuff even at DFW Airport compared to Love Field. I mean, at DFW Airport, Delta flies to Atlanta, Boston Logan, Detroit Metro, LAX, Minneapolis St. Paul, both JFK and LaGuardia, Salt Lake City, and Seattle Tacoma. Other than that, the only other company that flies is a small carrier, JSX, and that's really it. Southwest has by far the largest market share at 97%, with Delta at number 2 with 408, and Alaskan at number 3 with 208,000. So it would be interesting to see if whether or not it could go to Southwest, to Delta, or maybe even to another airline. I mean, I remember when they were doing the gates out in 2014, they said they wanted an ultra low cost carrier, but I don't think Spirit or Frontier really want to fly into DFW, want to fly into Love Field. Frontier for a long time, or at least Central Airlines before they bottom out, flew into Greater Southwest until that shut down, and then Frontier moved all of their stuff up to DFW. I don't know. I would probably say the best thing to do would be, at least for Southwest, would be to give the gates to Southwest so that they could just slowly grow again. But if they want to bring in a little bit more competition, I would say the next best thing to do would be to give Delta both of those gates and then just terminate that subleasing contract. But hey, I digress. We'll see how this goes. But with that, we're going to end the video here. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video about Alaskan Airlines leaving Love Field. I know this is a little bit of a shorter video than normal, and again, it's not a normal American airport expansion video, but this is a big deal for Love Field, especially with them also starting the planning stages for their new master plan. That we'll talk about later in a new American airport expansions video, hopefully when that's finalized. If you liked what you just watched, make sure you guys like and subscribe down below. If you don't want to miss any future videos, whether it's more aviation videos like this or any of our automotive and mountain bike content, make sure you guys hit that bell icon so you're notified when each of these videos drop at 8 a.m. on their respective days. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day and a great weekend. Peace.